everyone. Welcome to our second episode of ShodhCast, a program where authors talk about their research work, discussing the ideas, the questions, and the journey behind their research. Through ShodhCast, we hope to move beyond simply publishing reports and briefs towards meaningful conversation around our research work. Today's episode features a very special and interesting report. The report titled From Mohini Goraguli to the Present Bengali Rock Music, Identity, Inequality, and Survival was published on 8th of May on the website www.therise.co.in. So, the rock music, a music that is symbolic of energy of the youth, a music that is raw in its form but vocal in the depiction of the realities of the society, a music that has for years functioned as the soundtrack of social movements, a music that feels recent but is deeply rooted in the history, including the history of Bengal. Yes, I'm talking about Mohini Gora Guli, the rock band which emerged during the 1970s. Now, 1970s was a period marked by economic stagnation. There was a lot of political instability around, and there was growing Naxalite movement in West Bengal. Led by Gautam Chattopadhyay, this band not just incorporated Western rock elements into the Bengali landscape, but it questioned the very moral and aesthetic authority of the Bengali music. While the period of 1970s represented a counter-hegemonic disruption through the Mohini Goragoli, the 1990s represented a period of consolidation of the Bengali rock. Bands like Cactus, Fossils, Parash Pathar all played an important role in shaping the Kolkata's rock lineage. However, this music tradition now appears to be in doldrums. Unlike the classical and the mainstream film music, rock music has unfortunately failed to gain the formal recognition, be it from the cultural institution or from the policy levels. Apart from highlighting this issue, this report also draws a comparison of the Bengali rock with its global counterparts. Now, this comparison highlights another interesting point. While the music fans are willing to spend extraordinary amount to watch the international bands, the Bengali rock bands, despite their artistic influence and cultural significance, continue to remain at the margin. The classic case of global becoming glamorous while locals struggle for visibility. The common reason given for this state of affairs of the Bengali rock is the linguistic barriers. Bengali rock, being predominantly performed in the Bengali language, is said to have a limited appeal. But if we look closely, language has not been a barrier for other music. Say Korean pops does not suffer from this issue. You know why? The real issue lies somewhere else. It lies in the absence of strong marketing system, a supportive policy ecosystem, and a coordinated industry backing. The government of West Bengal does provide various schemes and support to the folk artists and the classical musicians, but contemporary genre like Bengali rock has largely been ignored. This is a major policy blind spot that this report aims to address. The study aims to do a policy oriented analysis of the Bengali rock music by combining the industry reports, the academic research papers, and the historical archive. The attempt is to move beyond the romanticized notion of rebellion to critically evaluate the condition under which the Bengali rock survives. and what lies in the future. And this is precisely the conversation we hope to begin today with Diptangshu Chanda, who is the author of the book. He has done MSc in economics with a specialization in geopolitics and geoeconomics from the Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics. He holds a BA honors in economics from Jadavpur University. With that, let's begin the discussion. So, Diptangshu, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Diptangshu, tell me, Mohini Guragoli is known to be the pioneer of the Bengali rock. Beyond introducing a new musical style, what the cultural and the social shift did this band represent to the 1970s of the Bengal? Yes, Diptangshu, over to you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right. Before talking about the cultural and the social significance, it's important to understand the political context in which the band developed. So it was the early 1970s, and Bengal, especially, was marked by a great political upheaval. Political violence was going on all over the state. The Naxalite movement was going on, and also the economic situation was not very good. There was economic stagnation, and also in the 1970s, we have to remember the emergency period was going on 75 to 77. So, with all these political and economic conditions in the background, especially the youth of Bengal, they felt betrayed by the political institutions. There was frustration, and they needed a cultural outlet to vent out their frustration, and that's where Moiner Ghoraguli came in. Bengali rock became that outlet of frustration. And so, like, if I'm talking about, if I use Gramsci's counter hegemony theory, so Bengali rock was this counter culture against the dominant cultural values within Bengal that was dominant during that time. So Moiner Golaguli actually challenged the accepted definitions of Bengali Bhadralok, or the elite culture, which we talk about. So yeah, it was formed in 1975. Well, it was led by Gautam Chattopadhyay, as you rightly said, and it was actually the first band to successfully localize the concept of Western rock music in the specific context of Bengal. But it's important to understand they did not copy Western rock music and then lift the ideas of Western rock music and incorporate them into Bengali music. They used a Bengali language, they used the local language, and they used the essence of rock music to talk about the Bengal's current on ground realities. So it was not a romanticizing of the Western rock culture, it was rather getting ideas from that and then implementing it in the local context within Bengal, keeping in mind the social, the political, and the economic conditions that were going on. So it was actually a perfect expression of Bengal anxiety that was going on, especially among the youth, the disillusionment, the anxiety that was going on within the that was dominant within the youth at that time. So yeah, and if I talk about specific songs, the specific lyrics to address why I'm saying all this, like I'll just take a few examples of the songs. Like there's this song called "Hi Bhalobashi." So it actually starts with a Wordsworthian celebration of nature, like how Wordsworth talked about nature, how he described nature and the solace and the celebration of nature within it. But it actually finally ends up going to the social inequality, the way the laborers are toiling in the fields, and the economic disparity within the society. So the song starts with ভালো লাগে কাশ বনে ঘুরতে. So it's like they're talking about how it feels beautiful to walk around the nature, walk around the fields and all. But then suddenly this romantic idea is disrupted through the image of the visual imagery of laborers toiling in the field. So that's like, so the Wordsworthian celebration of nature is actually ending by confronting us with the labor and inequality within the society. So like these are some of the examples. There's also another example of the song Ajana Uronto Bostu, which is basically Ubo, which means UFO, unidentified flying object. That's what Ajana Uronto Bostu means in Bengali. So it's actually talking about ordinary employees, ordinary clerks who are working hard the whole day, and then they come back to their room and they face the loneliness and the alienation of the society, and actually highlighting the mundane existence of a normal of a usual a clerk, or a normal an employee. So it's actually highlighting themes of alienation, absurdity, uncertainty, which is actually very resonating the themes which Sartre or Camus talked about in their books, in their writings. So it's not just an implication, or direct lift of Western rock into the Bengali culture. It's actually a mixture of various theories, various conceptual frameworks, and getting ideas from that, and focusing on the fact that the Bengal's youth's voices have a place, an outlet, so that people can get to know about them. People can get to know about the frustration, about the alienation, about the absurdity, about the political disillusionment that's going on. So yeah.
Yes, you have rightly said. But post that, after Mohini Kuragoli, there was a culture of Bengali rock that began to consolidate.
Yeah.
The 1990s has been defined as the phase of consolidation of the Bengali rock. Throw some light on this, Diptangshu. What were the major rock bands and how did they influence the Bengal of those times? Yes, Diptangshu.
Right, right. So the 1970s was this period which was characterized by a very volatile political environment in Bengal, and that was when Moinher Godaguli came up. And at the same time, I'm just coming to the 1990s a bit later. I'm just going to talk about another band as well, just to give a contrast of the essence of why Mohinir Goraguli actually still is one of the most important bands to still talked about. It's because there was also another band called High, and they were formed by Liu Hilt, Nandan Bagchi, Dilip Balakrishnan. But the two bands, if I keep side by side, Mohinar Ghoraguli and High was performing in the elite spaces of Park Street clubs, pubs, and all, and they were performing rock music, but they were performing it in English language, and so naturally there was a lack of connection between the youth of those times and what they were singing about. It seemed like a post-colonial romanticism of the Western culture, what High was talking about. And definitely it included guitars, drums, bass guitars, and all the instruments were all the classic rock instruments. But the way they tried to actually communicate the rock music, the rock identity, that kind of did not fit well with the youth. That's why towards the end High faded out, although they have got some brilliant records. If someone wants to listen, they have it on Spotify, you can go it and listen. But that's the reason they could not sustain. That's the reason they could not actually draw a mark in the youth, which Mohinar Godaguli was able to. And now if I go towards 1990s, the 1990s saw a kind of a resurrection of rock music, especially starting with Kobir Suman. So Kobir Suman is, again, it would not be fair to just classify him as a rock musician. He is a volatile musician. He has experience and training in various kinds of music. So it would not be fair to classify him as a rock musician, but he was definitely one of the driving forces of rock music in the 1990s, which was also followed by Anjan Dotto. And also there's another name that often goes not unheard or unnoticed, which is Shushmit Bose. So Shushmit Bose was a kind of performing a music, something which was different from what Anjan Datta was talking about, from what Kobir Suman was talking about, and he was performing mainly in English. So that was also one of the reasons which I said, like, High could not sustain Shushmit Bose's language, the language barrier, that could not really draw a mark. But at the same time, it would not be right to attribute his low profile just because of the English language, because within the local circles he was actually a very popular figure. It still is. and he is often referred to as India's Bob Dylan. So naturally, Shushmit Bose, he does have a very significant impact. So these were the three individual musicians which we can associate with rock music, the rise of rock music in the 1990s again. And also at the same time, we see the rise of bands gradually, like Cactus, Fossils, Porsche, Pathor, Crosswinds, like you mentioned in the introduction. So yeah, and that was kind of the time when the rock music became more popular in the college circuits. So the college circuits, the college campuses, that was the 1990s, was this time where college campuses were actually the hub of rock music. How it started, how rock music started. And also, I think I should mention something which often many people don't know about, but it's important to give the recognition to that man as well. His name is Orunendu Bose. Orunendu Bose, he did not get any formal recognition as such as a rock musician or something, but he is known to be one of the first Bengali musicians who started this culture of performing together with people in a closed circle, just taking your guitar and just singing songs, writing your own songs. And actually, a lot of Mohinar Godaguli's songs, the lyrics are written by Orunendu Dash. So he's not often talked about, and people don't know much about him. But Orunendu Dash has got a great contribution in the lyrics and the songs of what we see as Mohinar Godaguli's songs. So yeah.
Rightly said, Diptangshu. Excellent musician with enormous contributions. But Diptangshu, you also studied on the ground that despite its cultural influence, Bengali rock remains structurally marginal. Why
Yeah.
has the genre struggled to achieve the institutional recognition which is enjoyed by other musics?
Right. So there are actually a lot of it's basically not just one problem. So it's a multifaceted problem that which rock music faces. Number one is the institutional support, as we've talked about before. So Bengali among Bengali music, the classical music, folk music, Robindra Sangit, the heritage traditional music of Bengal, Robindra Sangit, definitely they are favored more policy wise when we talk about institutional support. And rock music, the rock musicians, they lack grants, they lack fellowships, they lack subsidies, they lack training institutions. We see classical music training institutions, we see Robindra Sangit training institutions, we see folk music training institutions, but there is no such training institution of rock music. Now one of the reason is because I personally feel rock music is not something that where you can go to a school and learn and get trained in. Obviously you have to know about it, obviously you have to practice, you have to get yourself trained, but I don't think institution is the proper way where you can like bound yourself within a certain framework and then start learning about rock music, because that's exactly the opposite of how rock music developed. It was like breaking the barriers, breaking the predefined structures. It's like a rebellion, it's acting against the predefined set of the society. So I don't think institutions is probably would be the right way in which rock music can be sustained. But again, it's a fact that the other kinds of music, the other genres of music, they sustain and they have got the outreach because of the institutional support, because of the grants, because of the training and the fellowships the musicians get. So like policy actually treats rock as a market activity rather than a cultural activity. So that's the main reason why rock music has not got the limelight it should have got. And there's a cultural bias towards it. And also, like you talked about Korean music, so we have to understand Korean pop music, the spread of Korean pop music is one of the main reasons is definitely globalization. And also Korea uses Korean music as Korea's soft power. Now, since India is a diverse country in terms of religion, in terms of region, in terms of language, in terms of traditions, in terms of a lot of things, so there is naturally the predominance of Bollywood music, then predominance of Hindi. We see the popularity of Bollywood music all around the world, which India finds it suitable to promote that rather than taking out a regional genre, a regional language, and trying to promote that as a soft power. So Bollywood music is again can be compared to core K-pop's influence in India and all over the world, because again we are comparing soft power here, the projection of soft power. But if we look at Bengali rock music here, it's kind of difficult to just take a regional language, a regional a music which is performed in regional language, and use that and promote that. So that's not in the interest of the policy makers or the policy structure which we have. So naturally, it's there's a policy bias, there's a cultural bias, definitely. And also, so as a result of which, how do rock musicians they sustain, they perform, they sustain through maybe teaching classes, they sustain through performing live shows. Live shows are basically the main source of their income, since there is no fixed grant or anything that you can get from the government or from the state structure, institutional structure. So there is no thing as such. So mainly they depend on live shows, they depend on teaching, providing teaching courses and all on rock music, and that's how they sustain. And also right now, to get the outreach, the main part, the main uh, area to do that other than live shows is streaming platforms. So Spotify, YouTube Music, and all of that. The problem there is it's algorithm driven. If you don't get that amount of outreach which you require, then you are not, you're going to be a not so searched up artist in Spotify, and therefore your payments will be according to your outreach. So there's a lot of structural problems we have, and that's the reason why rock music, even though it should have been, but Bengali rock music has not reached the potential it should have.
The problems we have discussed a lot. Now, coming to the solution,
Yeah.
the bridge framework, very
Mm.
interesting, that we came out in this report. Can you throw some light on what is the broad model, the bridge framework, which you propose in this report? Yes,
Yeah.
Diptangshu.
So the bridge framework, which we have proposed as a possible policy recommendation or a solution to the problems that Bengali rock music is facing. So it's BRIDGE. So B stands for backing finance. So let's say contemporary music support schemes. Let's say we introduce project based grants, just project based, and also we introduce low interest loans. So we have to create a holistic financial structure, which will act as a support, so that rock musicians they can sustain themselves and they can actually think about creating art without worrying about the financial constraints of it. Because you need to have a financial backing if you actually want to create art the way you think of it to be, the way you imagine it to be. So the backing finance, that's the first part of it. The R part, the bridge R is basically right to access and regulation. So there should be music rights facilitation cells, there should be copyright support, there should be royalty education for rock music. Now, going to the I stands for infrastructure development, which is a very crucial part. Like, for example, let's say we can talk about creating urban music hubs. We can talk about creating affordable rehearsal and recording spaces, because infrastructure development, it's not directly related, but again, we see that rock music in Bengal and all over the world, I guess, it's predominantly, not exclusively, but it's predominantly, we see it's driven by men, right? So it's primarily a field which is driven by men. We don't see much of female participation in this rock genre, and a big part of it is basically because of lack of proper rehearsal spaces, or the timings, the way you can actually transfer, go and travel to those places for rehearsal and come back. It becomes difficult if we talk about the safety of women. And so that's also one of the, not main, but one of the reasons which we see why the participation of women has been relatively limited compared to men. And so we need infrastructure support, we need infrastructural development. And if you talk about the D, the bridge frameworks D, so it's digital integration. So it's not just, we can't just let it run as a free market in within the streaming platforms, like just let the music release and then let the music do its work. That's really not how it works, because the algorithm does its work, the music does not. So we have to talk about YouTube promotion, we have to introduce Spotify partnerships maybe, and we also need to focus on regional playlists and not just an overall rock music playlist, but maybe a Bengali regional playlist for rock music and like so on. Going to the G part, so global outreach. Now this is one place where rock music, Bengali rock music, has been struggling a lot. And I think what can be done is basically, even if the state structure, the state government takes some kind of measures or takes some kind of steps to ensure that the diaspora, Bengali diaspora abroad, they are directly engaged with the performance of Bengali rock music. So I think it needs a bit more state support. Needs a bit more institutional support for to engage that Bengali diaspora abroad, because the Bengali diaspora abroad is a huge number. So if we can use this opportunity to get each other more connected and actually keep focusing on, or shed some focus or on Bengali rock music through some state mechanism, through some institutional support, then that would be a possible way to go forward in this. So diaspora engagement, international tour support, so that it takes a huge amount of money to tour internationally. Even when we see the Bengali rock bands, they go to Canada or USA, where there's a significant amount of Indian Bengali diaspora there. So the international travel costs a lot, and it's very difficult to actually get that money from just ticket concerts, because obviously you can't, as being a Bengali rock band or a Bengali rock musician, you can't charge tickets as high as the Western rock bands they do. So you can't do that. So it becomes very difficult to actually manage that manage that expenses just from ticket concert tickets. So international touring support, that's one way to actually support this. And lastly, if we talk about the E, the bridge E, last letter, it's an ecosystem development. So not just institutional support, or not just focusing on the digital aspect of it, but we need probably more musician surveys. We need a strong live music circuit to promote live music. We need probably venue incentives. So there are possible lot of ways in which a proper, a holistic structure or an ecosystem of rock music, Bengali rock music, can be tried to develop. But again, the problems that are there, that's a very significant, so it requires a proper understanding, and especially a proper survey of musicians, what the on ground problems they face. Basically, there's this one video which I have also referred to while writing the paper, which is which was directed by Kaushik Mukherjee. He's more popularly known as Q. So he is a Bengali director, and then he had created this short film called Le Pocha. So Le Pocha is basically, in Bengali, means like it's like there's no specific meaning to it. It's like nothing can be made sense of. It's something, it kind of interprets to something like that. Like nothing can be made sense of. It's like it's gibberish, let's say. So that's what Lepoja means. So, and that is basically a documentary on the rock musicians of Bengal during the 1990s. So there, they have talked about how they lack institutional support, how the times have changed from 1970s to 1990s, how times have changed, the kind of music that have changed, and so has the audience changed. So there's a lot of things that which needs to be taken into account, and surveys like this or documentaries like this needs to be made more to actually understand the problems which Bengali rock musicians are facing and how to overcome those. So yeah.
Right, rightly said, Diptangshu. Not just the problems, but also the solution that we have proposed in this report. I
Yeah.
hope it reaches us, it reaches to the people who can do something, who can bring an impact, and who can change the life of the Bengali rock music, because it is a lost tradition which we need to revive. And for
Yeah,
that, we need.
it's not really, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's not really a lost tradition. The tradition is still going on, but the 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 size in which it's happening, that should have been more.
Right.
because it lacks the support. Because if we still go to Kolkata, we see a lot of like local rock hubs. We see daily people are performing their rock music, just writing down songs and just taking a guitar or just taking some drums and a guitar, two people, three people, they're just playing rock music in pubs and clubs or so on. So that tradition is still there. Bengal is still trying to hold on to that, but definitely outreach is what is very much required and where what is very much crucial right now, so that it gains more attention, so that people get to know more about it. Like rock is not just Western rock. Rock is also something which can be regionalized and which can talk about the people, your own people, the people around you, the people you see every single day, and not something a Western romanticism of culture.
Right. And that's what through the bridge framework, we aim to propose a very comprehensively done report. Before we end, my one last question to Diptangshu would be about his experience under working Amadir Bengal. Amadir Bengal, for our audience, is our state focused research initiative. It is a part of our flagship D-Rise internship program. Yes, Diptangshu, how was your experience working with us?
It was firstly, it was a very enriching experience to start with, because I was actually quite excited seeing the topic which had been assigned to me, and this was something which I really wanted to work on. So definitely, while working on this, while writing this paper, I had to do a lot of research, reading through various documents, YouTube videos, rewatching videos which I had seen earlier, interviews and all. So definitely it was a very, very enriching experience, and something, and a topic or an issue or a genre that is very close to my heart. So it was definitely, I loved working with it. And also your guidance, Sneha ma'am's guidance, that actually helped me through the various stages one by one, to till the final completion of the paper. So yeah, you were there to guide every single week, just follow up calls and clearing doubts which I have. So that was something which was this would be something that I would be remembering. So yeah.
Thank you, Diptangshu. It's always a pleasure working with interns like you. Also, before we end this end this showcast episode, I would like to share that the hard copy of the book is now available,
Okay.
for which you can find the link on the website, that is www.therise.co.in. Till then,
Mhm.
stay tuned to therise_co._in YouTube channel and for more such updates. Like, share, and subscribe. Namaskar, everyone. Thank you, Diptangshu.